So I have with me now director Brett Bailey, whose piece is called Samson. It's a visual feast and quite a terrifying one. I mean, he mines into the biblical story of Samson to look at what makes up the mind of a terrorist. So I'm going to hand you over to Brett to introduce himself more and to tell us a bit about the piece. Brett.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Brett Bailey. I'm a theatre director, playwright from Cape Town. I was drawn to the subject of Samson because I felt like working with something from the Bible, because it's the text that has created or so many of the prejudices and the minds, the cosmology, the worldviews of Western civilization for many years. And I thought it'd be interesting text to mine for a story. I came across the story of Samson, and what struck me there is that Samson was from a nation that had been colonized. He's from the Hebrew nation that was colonized by the Philistines for so long. And so the take I gave to the story was that there's a man who comes from a previously colonized nation to the world of his colonizers, and he's greeted with xenophobia. And he's humiliated, and out of that explodes this rage, this repressed rage of centuries. He ends up killing a hell of a lot of people. Eventually, when he's tricked and betrayed, he's incarcerated for 7 years. And then at the end, when he calls back his God, once his hair has regrown, he brings down the temples, the columns of the temple, and crushes the whole this nation that has colonized his people and humiliated him. The reference I used there is bringing down the Twin Towers in New York. So it makes a lot of references to the contemporary situation that we're so aware of, which is one of anger, mass mobilization of people, immigration, xenophobia. But also, it's also, because I'm so fascinated with myth and with ritual, it's also the story of a man's story of self-actualization, going through a period of extreme darkness into a place of liberation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when I first saw it, I was looking for an African story, and I saw an African story, but I also saw a global story. Yeah. And that really impacted me a lot through the design, because I saw a lot of African elements, but also a lot of design that referenced European cultures, for example. And I was just wondering, I felt through the design, you placed this sort of African, Hebrew, European story together by creating this world. Can you talk to me a bit about the design and the research that went into that?
Yeah, for me, I'm a visual animal as much as I'm a theater animal, and a musical animal as well. And I mine all these areas. I'm very eclectic, and I'm also, in the theater styles that I use, because I also reference a lot of performance styles. I'm always looking at how to challenge a hegemony that in artistic production, or criticism which imagines that one value system or aesthetic is better than another, and there's so many in the world, and so many that have been snuffed out over the centuries as well. And so I really draw from everywhere. So in my costuming, in the design elements, the music, etc., I'm pulling from the Far East. I'm pulling from various parts of Africa. I'm pulling from Haiti, where I spent a lot of time, West Africa, where I spent a lot of time researching voodoo many years ago, and also from European traditions. And I use this to create a very complex picture that's really about incorporation.
It does hit emotionally on a lot of levels. I think the design really works, and the fact that your performers, a number of them, their faces are covered throughout the performance, and they're wearing costumes which enlarge their bodies so that you can't actually see the physical shape. And so this almost makes an otherworldly sort of feeling to the piece. Are we in heaven? Are we on earth? Are we in Dante's Inferno? That is the sense I got from it. And you said in the interview I saw that you're interested in creating worlds of beauty disquiet and violence. So what kind of feeling are you hoping your audience to leave the auditorium after they've seen your piece? What kind of
I
feeling?
suppose it's the surreality of the world we live in, perhaps. You know, it's the first 30 minutes of a 100-minute production are pretty much follow a storyline, and you know, there's these overblown characters. Samson arrives in this world. He's masked. This is beautiful dreadlock mask, and he arrives in this world with these overblown, arrogant buffoon characters. You know, fat. They're fed off the land of the resources of the countries they've colonized. And in about 25 or 30 minutes into it, he shoots them all up and kills them all. And then it moves much more into a ritualistic kind of theater. And so, as I said, I'm playing with a lot of different theater forms. By the end of the show, I think Samson's the only one that's masked, and then it's really a group of the other players who've taken off their masks, who act as members of the ceremony that he's involved in, that help him, lead him through this process of self-actualization that I mentioned.
Oh, wow. So there you have it. That is Samson, a biblical story that's now taking global proportions and historical, you know, spanning centuries. It's a piece for 10 performers. It's 100 minutes long. And if you're interested, please reach out. It is a piece that is very beautiful to watch, very disturbing, and it tells us what drives a people to commit acts of terror. Thank you very much, Bailey.
Thanks, thank you, thanks.